so many of you here. With the most important and difficult decision that Scotland has to take, it's important that everyone gets to know the facts from all sides, not just from all the proposition we hear from Yes campaign and the Better Together campaign. So thank you all very, very much for coming. And I'm going to hand over to Tom Lundberg now to introduce our speakers and get started. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. First thing to do, can you all hear me back there? I think the little horrible thing on my shirt is working. I can hear sort of echo. So you can hear me in the back. Yes, indeed, that's excellent. Hopefully these other two microphones that the people here will have to share are also going to be working. Most important thing today is for the students here to ask questions and get their questions answered. I know there are a lot of people wondering how they should vote in the referendum coming up on the 18th of September. Supposedly there's a lot of information out there, but a lot of it is a bit complicated or confusing, or maybe you think is biased. And so I know there's still quite a hunger for more information. So that's what we're going to try to do here. Have you ask your questions, which I hope you can keep in a concise manner. Try not to go on and on. Try not to give your own viewpoint too much. A little bit is fine, but please don't go on and have a diatribe out there. It's really important for you just to ask a concise question, and you can actually choose one of the individuals or one of the sides if you like, and have them choose who answers the question. Then we'll get a response from the opposite side, and then we'll move on, because otherwise we just won't get through. A lot of people here won't get through the questions. So at the beginning, though, what we'll do is have each person introduce themselves and talk for 2 minutes, and I will be timing here with my Seiko watch. 2 minutes so that we can get through. There are 6 people here to talk, so if we went on longer, it would be difficult for you to be able to ask your questions and get answers. Okay, so we'll have 2 minutes apiece, and then we'll move on to your questions. So I assume someone's going to be walking around with a microphone of some kind, so you can all hear what your questions are. And so we'll proceed momentarily, but we'll start out, just go along this route, I suppose, with Mr. Sheridan. If you can introduce yourself, and then 2 minutes to talk about why you are going to vote the way you are. No.
There we go. Is that better?
Okay, everybody, welcome to tonight's debate. I hope we have a good debate. I hope we generate as much light as we do heat. Inevitably, there will be some heat generated because we're passionate about our positions and our opinions on this particular topic. As far as I'm concerned, you've got an opportunity on the 18th of September to vote for freedom. And some people may say, well, you know, overegging the pudding, Tommy, you know, freedom. It's not as if we're locked up just now, it's not as if we're in shackles or chained. What I mean about freedom is freedom to get rid of nuclear weapons, freedom to save the mail service, freedom to keep education free, freedom not to be involved in illegal wars and conflicts, freedom to have a proper living wage that lifts workers out of poverty, freedom to tackle the scandal of 1 in 4 children in an oil-rich country living in poverty. When you listen to multi-millionaires like Mr. Shell today coming on board with all the other multi-millionaires calling for us to stay with the union, he said that Shell wanted continuity and stability. Well, I've got to say to you, in terms of what the Yes campaign can offer here tonight, we cannot dot every I, we cannot cross every T about what an independent Scotland is going to look like. But we can tell you for certain that there will be continuity. Continuity of cuts in public services, continuity of policies that cap benefits for the poor but don't cap bonuses for the bankers. 500 million given away today. They are still got their noses in the trough despite the greed that got us into the mess of 2008. Brothers and sisters, we can say loud and clear that the definition of austerity is punishing the poor for the crimes and the greed of the rich. The one certainty you've got is a no vote will continue that austerity. Thank you very much.
Managing Director of a business organisation called Business for Scotland. We already have 1,500 business owners in our organisations who are all pro-independence. I describe myself as always politically aware, never politically active. Let's be quite clear, from a business perspective, there are tremendous opportunities for an independent Scotland. Significant, and we will cover them in the questions. I grew up being told that Scotland was too wee, too poor and too stupid. That might be a surprise to some of you young guys. Let me tell you, we are not too poor. If we were independent, we would be the 8th most wealthy countries in the OECD as compared to the UK at 16th. We are not too wee, we are an average sized country, and in fact, the 8 out of the top 10 wealthiest countries are the same size as ours. We're certainly not too stupid, and I think you will all be living evidence of that. It's an opportunity to change things for the better. It's an opportunity to look outwards. Opportunity, what it's all about, to create and shape our future, your future, and your children's future for the better. I look forward to answering your questions later. Thank you.
My name's Mary. I'm not a politician or a business person. I'm just a student at this uni. So I'm very grateful to be invited along tonight to talk. I think one of the important things we need to remember tonight is that this debate isn't about party politics. It's not about SNP. It's not about Tories. It's not about anything. This is about our future. This is about my future. I've got an entire lifetime ahead of me. I want to know that I'm in control of it. And at the minute, I'm not. And that's where my point of view comes from. We don't have democracy here. Tonight, I was talking to my dad before we came out, and he says to me that this reminds him an awful lot, like the feeling he's got of burning inside for campaigning, reminds him of the miners' strike. And he said years ago he would be sitting with people and saying, look, you don't understand. If they lose this, the landscape of this country is going to change. And it did. And it's exactly the same that's happening now. This is the biggest decision you're going to make. Jim Sillars summed it up in the Scotland Tonight. He said that on the 18th of September, between 10 in the morning and 7 at night, Scotland is a sovereign country. Our vote counts. Our vote matters. And at 1 minute past 10, I said that rang around 7 o'clock. At 1 minute past 10, we will either have given that sovereignty away or we will keep it. So tonight, I hope to hear something positive from the North Side, to genuinely engage in a debate. I want to know why this great Britain is great. I don't want to be scared into staying. I don't want to be scared into voting no. I want to hear a positive case, and that's something I hope happens tonight. Thank you.
I'm chair of the Federation of Small Businesses in Glasgow. I also own my own small business in Glasgow. The Federation itself sits on the fence in this matter. Its idea was I'll work with whatever you decide. So my views here are my own. I do sit here on the no side, and I am a bit of a wishy-washy no. I started like I think many people have, and I was pretty undecided, and I was open to the arguments. I was very disappointed when the white paper came out. I wanted a blueprint for an exciting, new, dynamic, modern country. That's not what I got. We'll get rid of air passenger duty, we'll do this, we'll do that. All quite reasonable things in their own right. Certainly didn't set the world on fire for me. I didn't see the birth of a new, exciting country. And the more the arguments have gone on, the more the debate has gone on, the more I sway from being on the fence and into the no camp. And I remain to be challenged to change my mind. The uncertainties about the currency, the fact even just politics in general in this country all sits in the middle ground. When we've gone through the process and we spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of uncertainty, if we do end up going independent, I'm just not convinced what we have at that stage is any different to what we'll have once we get some more powers next year and nature carries on as it does. So that is me. I'm hardly a staunch argument, I admit, but I think I stand for quite a lot of people starting off sitting on the fence.
Hello, my name is Ruth Davison. I'm the leader of the Scottish Conservative Party. I'm not wishy-washy. I'm one of the passionate believers in the no campaign. And the reason that I believe very passionately in United Together is because I believe in Britain. And I don't like it when people tell me that Britain's not working anymore, that Britain is dead, Britain is a bad place, it is wrong, it is in some way a failed state. I'm proudly Scottish. I've never lived or worked anywhere else. But I'm British too. And there is a proposition on the table that says that we can no longer be British as well as Scottish. And I think that that's a shame, because when I look at the United Kingdom, when I look at all the achievements in the last 300 years, they're our achievements too, because Scotland is part of that United Kingdom. And every success over the last 300 years, we have ownership of as Scots here in our own country. And when I look at the way in which we're going down the road of devolution, I see that we are changing the face of our nation, and we do take decisions close to home on education, on policing, on justice, on health. But we're also part of something bigger and something that we can be proud of. We're part of a much bigger marketplace for goods and services. We sit at the top table for the G7, the G8, at NATO, in the UN, and the EU. So we have the security and stability of being part of one of the biggest, wealthiest countries in the world, with one of the most professional armed forces in the world, but we also make decisions close to home. And I don't buy the anti-democratic argument, because we do elect people to Westminster, we do elect people to Holyrood, we do elect people to our local council. We have every opportunity to pick our own representatives, and I'm proud that we send MPs to Westminster to make decisions. And what I'm hearing from the SNP is, we'll have Westminster make all of our macroeconomic policies for us, we just don't want any Scottish MPs to go there and be involved in that process. So I'm proud to be both Scottish and British, and I think as a nation we can have success in the future as well as the successes that we have ownership of now from the past that we've built up together.
I'm James Kelly, I'm the MSP for Relevant. I welcome the opportunity to take part in this evening's debate, because there's no doubt that it is a big decision whether you're a care worker in Carnoustie or a classroom assistant in Cambuslang. People are interested in how the decision in September will affect them. And the reality is that on day one of our independent Scotland, we would be at least 3.3 billion down on our budget. What that therefore means is it means that the circumstances are really challenging for those workers and families throughout this country. There will be less money in the budget, less money in the economy, and people's jobs and working conditions will suffer. I'm not prepared also to give up on people, hard-working people in communities in towns like Liverpool and Manchester who face many of the same problems in cities like Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen and Dundee. I'm not prepared to give up on those people who share the same problems. We've got more that unites us than divides us. I believe that we've delivered a lot in the United Kingdom. We've delivered the National Health Service, and we've delivered a Scottish Parliament. And I believe in a strong Scottish Parliament. I want to see that Parliament with the proper powers to tackle the housing crisis, to tap into skills development so that we can make the most of our economy, and to extend the living wage to all public workers covered by all public contracts. I look forward to the debate tonight, but I strongly urge a no vote on September the 18th. Thank you.
All right, who wants to ask the first question? Just to review, the format is students please ask a question, just one question, don't go on and on. If you want to say a little bit about why you're asking the question, that's fine, but please don't monopolize this. We want to get as many student questions in as possible. And then you can either direct it to one of the two sides or at an individual if you know someone you want to ask directly. On the different sides here, you can take up the question and try to answer it. If you want to share a little bit, have a little conversation about it, that's fine. And then we'll have a reaction from the other side as well, just so we have a little balance. Okay, then we'll move on to another question. Okay? So go ahead, yeah, if you want to hunt for, I see somebody right in the middle here.
Got my glass on, I can't see that. There we go.
Hi, I'd like to ask both sides of the argument what a yes and a no vote mean to the sick and disabled in this country. Whether ATOS will be scrapped, whether it will carry on, and why we should be punished for being sick or disabled.
Okay, which side wants to take that one first then? Have the yes side and no have the no side.
The reason I'm reaching for the microphone quickly here is because a question very similar was asked on Friday night at a debate we had in Irvine. Some 350 people turned up at a debate in Irvine, and Brian Donoghue, the Labour MP, answered that question by saying nothing will change. Well, I've got to at least respect his honesty, if nothing else. The truth is, the Tories who want to punish the sick and the disabled, who should be getting charged with manslaughter, given the number given the thousands now of disabled and sick claimants who have been passed fit for work and died within 1 month of that assessment. People in comas in hospitals receiving letters from ATOS saying, yes, you're fit for work. That is a British solution to sick and disabled. It's not a Scottish solution. As far as I'm concerned, ATOS will not survive in an independent Scotland. Okay. So that's what will change as far as the sick and disabled are concerned. And the final point, when James says he doesn't buy into this lack of democracy question, well, we've got a tax called the bedroom tax, which is nothing more than a poverty-seeking missile that attacks the poor and the disabled for the crime of being poor and disabled. 91% of Scottish elected politicians voted against the bedroom tax, but we still got the bedroom tax. That's a democratic deficit that a yes vote will sort out.
Suppose I would observe from a purely business perspective. As I said at the beginning, I describe myself politically aware, not politically active. When did it become okay to have so many people in our society who are not able to contribute? When did that become okay? In fact, where did we get the strapline UK okay and we're supposed to jump up and down about that? I think it's an absolute disgrace the way our most disadvantaged are treated, and I say that as a business person. I think it's an absolute disgrace the way that we worship at the table of big business. Scotland is a society of SME businesses. 99.3% of our businesses are in the SME sector. 98.3% are 0 to 49 in size. We should be focusing absolutely in business and supporting people to get into work, because you know what, then they pay tax and that helps our society, instead of allowing them to be expendable.
What's already been said. Obviously, and Tommy said at the start, we can't dot the I's or cross the T's at all. But the very fact that 91% of MSPs voted against a bedroom tax, the Scottish Parliament, I imagine, would have similar voting outcomes with any of the right-wing policies that are coming through Westminster. If we were independent, that vote would matter. We wouldn't get the veteran tax, we wouldn't get all these things. So I think that is more of an answer than the promise of a no vote, which is more cuts, more austerity. That's all.
Of course, it goes without saying that people who are sick and disabled should not be punished. And as an MSP, I see the effect of those policies in my surgery when people come through the doors, and that's something that I condemn. I think you need to examine what would happen, with the impact of those votes. And the reality is that if you move to a system where you have less money in the budget, then it becomes more difficult for the sick, the disabled, and the poor to be properly supported within that budget. I think it's also worth pointing out that what Alex Salmond and the SNP have made clear is that one of their priorities would be to cut corporation tax and take £400 million out of the budget. So that's £400 million less that we have to support the health service, to support the sick, to support the poor, and to support the disabled. The way forward is to build a progressive voice for progressive policies within the UK, so that a voice can be strong, not just for the sick and the disabled in Glasgow, but also in Manchester and Liverpool. That is the way I see as the way forward post-September.
I'd like to pick up on a point that Michelle made, and it was a point about contributing. I think that it's great that for 9 out of the final 10 years of the last Labour government, over 1 million people in the UK were not in work. 9 out of 10 years, they were left. They were left and told that there was no hope for them. They were told that there wouldn't be extra support just to get them back into the workplace, so they could give the kind of contribution that Michelle is talking about. And extra work, like the work programme, is being put in place to get people furthest from the workplace back into a job. And yes, that includes disabled people, because disabled people have a contribution that they can make to this country. And it's a contribution that a lot of disabled people feel that they were prohibited from being able to make. And a lot of disabled charities have said that they appreciate the extra work that is going in to try and get disabled people not counted out from the workplace, but saying what is it that you are able to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I recognise that the universal credit is difficult to bring in to replace all of the different benefits that are out there, but I think it's worth sticking with, because I think the work should always pay in this country, and the majority of Scots think the same. Poll after poll, no matter what Tommy's far-run left-wing statements say, poll after poll show that things like the benefits cap, like making work pay, are policies that have a plurality of opinion across Scotland as well as the UK.
Complete nonsense.
Okay, let's
didn't answer the question.
final speaker and then...
Didn't answer the question.
I certainly don't think second disabled people should be penalised in any shape or form. It's not an area I've got a huge knowledge in, so I'm not going to speak out of my neck. But I do have a lot of knowledge of working with young unemployed people in Glasgow. I know the children's aid case, and I know the problems they have in families that perhaps have been generations of unemployed. And generations of governments in Scotland have just left these people. And it is very, very sad, and it's very, very difficult to change. And I suppose without business head on, it's easy to sit and say everything we've got at the moment is wrong and everything will be perfect once we change across and become independent. But we do still have a budget to follow. People can play about things as much as they like. We'll be far better off, we'll be far worse off. Who knows? Either way, we still have a budget to follow and we can't do everything with it. So if we do away with veteran tax and do away with X, Y, and Z at one stage, we will have to compensate that elsewhere, and it'll be something else that another set of people do not like. So we do have to be realistic that floating dividends is a bit of money, and we do have to still manage the budget.
Okay, thanks for that. It's going to be a very quick response, because otherwise...
Well, a quick response. What ATOS are doing is social eugenics. I'm an ATOS whistleblower, I work there, and I challenge you, Ruth. to come and meet with me any time to find out what he's on in that place.
I'd like to ask the Jess side, and especially Tommy, and why is that says that if Scotland gets independence, there will never ever be a Conservative government again?
Can I say with absolute confidence that if Scotland ever gets a Tory government again after independence, it'll be because the Scottish people voted for it.
Correct.
That's not what we've got to do.
That's
Independence gives us the sovereignty to decide what is the nature of the government we will have, and that's why it is utter nonsense for James to rabbit on there about what the SNP are going to do.
That's
what
right.
The SNP
That's right.
This
That's
is
correct.
not about the
That's correct.
SNP.
Correct.
This is about independence.
Correct. Correct.
What we have in September is a vote on independence. What we'll have in 2016 is a general election
Correct.
where every single party will put their
Correct.
manifesto forward. And James, please, when you have organisations like Standard & Poor's, the OECD, even HMRC say that for the last 32 years in a row, Scotland has contributed more in taxation
Correct.
than we've got back.
Correct.
Listen, how can I add to that? It's a fundamental principle, let's not forget, guys. Sovereignty, self-determination is a moral imperative. It's the norm for every other country in the world. Why would
Correct.
we choose
Yes.
to be different and relinquish, abrogate responsibility to other people? No, we need to stand up and take charge of our own future.
Correct.
Like I said at the start, I'm not going to kid that I know the ins and outs of the economics of independence, because I don't. But what I do know is, I mean, you said at the start that we'll be 3.3 billion down for the get-go. Well, I say that the national flag will be 163 million up when we get in at Friday.
Correct.
I mean, I think Tommy was right from the start. Now, he may be a Conservative supporter, he may not be a Conservative supporter, but we're talking here about basic nations. We're not talking about a general election in 5 years' time and vote for someone else. This is forever. So I think you have to keep perspectives on the table. And I think, you know, when you talk about democracy, Tommy, you used to have members of Parliament, you don't anymore, because the people in Scotland voted you out. And I think
That was the that's a bit of best. That's the best of both. That's the best of both.
Okay, we'd just like to remind the audience to be respectful to all.
She should be respectful. She should be respectful.
Okay, and being to as well.
I watch both ways.
Let's let Ruth and
Okay, then let's just take a big deep breath, everyone, and Larry, finish your point, please. Thank you.
And I think that this does go beyond party politics. There's a reason why people who have stood sort of toe-to-toe, head-to-head, shouting from left and right, like the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, happen to be on the same side of this argument.
Right.
All of the differences aside, because the fate of nations is bigger than this. And when Tommy and Michelle talk about freedom and independence and all the rest of it, you know, we're not part of the union because we're subjugated. We're part of the union that we have actively contributed to because we have wanted to for the last 300 years. And
we
from that,
know
we
that.
get to the point of what we have built together. I think people should think about that when they go to the polling station for September the 18th.
This is not just about the people of Scotland. I think we've got to consider the whole of the United Kingdom. When Mike McGahey went to the 1968 SDUC Congress to speak on the debate on independence, he opposed independence. He was not going to give up on the mill workers of Manchester, the dock workers of Liverpool. And I firmly believe that moving to an independence model, there would be less money. Look at the jails figure, there would be 7.7 billion less. That's the reality.
Nonsense. That's
the
absolute
reality.
nonsense.
That's the
Nonsense.
reality of the figures that they should give us. So we've been moving to a weaker model, and also
That's absolutely terrible.
The
Terrible.
gentleman asked for a Conservative government. I'm not prepared to abandon people in Ipswich and Portsmouth and London and Manchester.
You've abandoned them in Glasgow.
To years of Conservative government. I want to stand with them, fight with them, to help solve the problems,
Unbelievable.
campaign on the problems, and get them the resolutions going forward. And a no vote in the referendum in September will not help that cause.
I'll just go back to my opening statement. Post-election, we can vote whatever we want to. We have Conservative Libertarians in Westminster, we have an SNP government in Scotland. There's a lot of powers already, and a lot of powers they don't actually choose to use at the moment, and there's more powers coming year on year.
Give us 10%.
We also have, if the manifesto is believed, we are handing over responsibility for our biggest issue, the economy, to somebody else. Whether that's going to be Europe, whether it's going to be Westminster, and a country union, who knows. So all the powers we want to have in terms of freedom, in terms of finance, we're going to be handing over a huge chunk of that control to someone else, whether it's the EU, whether it's Westminster, unless we go over our own independent currency, which nobody seems to be accounting for at the moment. So we're going to abdicate a lot of responsibility and become independent. So again, I go back to my original argument, what is really different to do vote independent? Okay, thanks.
Well, they tried it to start.
After the hypothetically yes vote and the hard-fought sovereignty that you want, why would the yes campaign give away that sovereignty and enter a currency union and have the macroeconomic decisions made in London that will have huge impact on this country?
I think that's a very, very good question, and it's an example of the different views you'll have within the yes campaign. We are united in calling for a yes vote. Personally, I think we should have our own currency.
Correct.
I don't think we should have any idea of giving away our sovereignty or our control on money supply to any other bank that won't any longer be in our bank. I do have to say, however, I'm yet to hear from Ruth or James, because they've told you that we should be very proud of what we've achieved over 300 years. We're all part of these achievements. Not one of them have said that it's a damn disgrace that George Osborne is trying to take the pound when Scotland's as much a pound as England is a pound. I hope you're going to be happy for that, if we're all in this together as far as achievements are concerned. Let's be clear about it, brother. After independence, there will be a 2-year period within which time all of the political parties in Scotland, and you know, it all befits Ruth is the leader of a party that is supposed to be partly in government, to have a go, to kick the player rather than the ball in relation to attacking a small socialist party here in Scotland. We know that your party at a UK level, Ruth, we know that there are less elected members than we've got pandas here in Scotland, so I don't think we should be bringing up that as far as the but in the 2 years between independence and the general election in Scotland, there's a chance for James's party to rejuvenate. Because the truth is, the Labour Party should be embracing independence. If there's any one party that stands to gain from an independent Scotland, it's the Labour Party. Because then they won't have to play the South-East tune. They can actually get back to Labour politics, like public ownership and community values and trade union rights, instead of the Blairism and the Brownism that has sunk the Labour Party at a UK.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I tell you. Okay, let's just get some facts on the table. Now, what I like to do in this debate is to be very clear about where they are facts and where they are opinion, informed, or otherwise. So just as a matter of interest, it is a matter of public record that Scotland has put more money in than it's got back over the past 32 years. That is a fact. Now, to give you an indication, I hear a lot of talk about, can we just go for Devo Plus, Devo Max, Devo with knobs on? Now, number one, it's not on the ballot paper. Number two, separatism. North Korea is not on the ballot paper. Now, I'll move on to currency in a moment, but let's just be specific. Additional tax take coming our way in the event of Scotland comes from the following list of areas. Now, I make no apology for reading it because it's so long. So listen to this. VAT, national insurance contributions, North Sea oil gas or geographic share, corporation tax, fuel duties, inheritance tax, tobacco duties, interest and dividends, alcohol duties, vehicle excise duty, rent not current transfers, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, insurance premium tax, air passenger duty, betting and gaming duty, climate change levy, aggregates levy, and crown estate income. So do not anyone be under any illusion that Devo something's going to give you something. It took 7 years, 8 years in fact, the Calvin Commission set up in 2007 to deliver the Scotland Act an additional 7% of powers. Even if you believed Labour or Liberal or Tories with the additional powers, it would only increase it to 25%. So let's be very clear, that does not mean by a currency union Scotland's giving up a lot. When you read that list and you understand the tax take, okay? The currency. Final point. It's a decision for Scotland. If you read the Fiscal Commission Working Group, incidentally, if you drop the report on your toes, you would break them. It's well thought out, considered, it contains some of the finest economic brains that we have in the world today, who are internationally recognised. They recommend a currency union, all things on balance, considered, and they believe it's the best option for Scotland and the rest of the UK. There's very sound reasons for that. It may well be another option comes in, but the point is, it's our choice.
Personally, put my mind on what I think the currency should be in an independent Scotland. I'm not looked into it enough, but my understanding, directly after we vote for independence, a currency union is by far the best option. £600 billion in exports keep coming into Scotland. If you put transaction costs on top of that, that's an extra 500 million that's going to cost English businesses. That is effectively an extra tax on English businesses. So I find it ridiculous for a Tory MP, the Conservative Party, to suggest that they are willing to put an extra tax on English businesses.
Correct, that last is good,
One of the points that James, he said it at the start, he mentioned it again, he says we'd be abandoning Liverpool and Manchester and the north of England. He says that we share the same problems, which is true, we do share the same problems, but at the minute we're powerless to do anything about it. Since 1945, the Scottish vote has not affected any general election. The vote would not have changed. What Scotland has, which Liverpool and Manchester don't have, is the chance to get out of that situation. We have
Let me pick up on a couple of points. First, I find it quite amusing that Tommy, who doesn't open his mouth without giving the Tories a kick, seems to apart when I like to point back and we've got a bit more of a democratic
Cheap tricks, innit? Cheap. It's cheap stuff.
To pick up on the points first raised by Michelle and then by Marie. If Michelle wants tax brought into the debate, then it is a fact, not just on geographical share, but on total tax take from the North Sea. Every year for the past 10 years, that entire tax take has been less than the welfare spend just in Scotland. So we're talking about the numbers that are involved, and the SNP quite like to point out that there's 9.9% of spending versus 96% of revenue. This is a deficit, that's a gap of over £7 billion. So I think we do need to look at some facts on the table. If we look at what Marie was saying about transaction costs, yes, the rest of the UK does trade 10% of its trade with Scotland. It trades 20% of its trade with America, 40% of its trade with members of the Eurozone. But there's no suggestion that it's twice as likely that the UK government or the rest of the UK would want to join the dollar, or 4 times as likely that it would want to join the euro. It doesn't. It wants to have sovereignty over its own currency. That's why, as a nation, we've stayed out of the euro. And when you've got people like Sir Nick Macpherson, who's the independent Chief Secretary to the Treasury, you've got the Governor of the Bank of England. Nick Macpherson said he could not in all conscience recommend, not just to this Chancellor, but to any Chancellor, that if the rest of the UK, if Scotland were to leave the rest of the UK, that the rest of the UK should give up some of its sovereignty to be in a currency union with Scotland. Mark Carney, the Canadian Governor of the Bank of England, relaxed the right, said that all currency unions require all members of that union to cede sovereignty. And you have a majority of people in the rest of the UK that say they don't want to give up sovereignty. When asked, they don't want a currency union with the rest of Scotland if Scotland chooses to leave. I like the currency union that we have. It's called being part of the UK, and if you want to keep it, then vote no to September 8th.
Afraid. You behave yourself.
Before we make your point, I just want to say, if anyone is filming this event, I would want you to switch your cameras off now. If you are caught filming, you will be asked to leave the event, so if you're doing it now, turn off your cameras.
Did any of you subject to being filmed?
Because there's members of the audience, there's members of the audience who may not want to be filmed.
Who's filming the audience?
Who's filming the audience?
This debate cannot be filmed.
Who's filming the audience?
This debate cannot be filmed because of the comfort of the audience members and the speakers. And that is the final.
No, I'm talking about the members there.
It's up to the politics.
Is that the
sponsoring
right?
this event?
I'm afraid. Yeah.
Outside my phone, in the moment, no talk. Well, you have nothing to do with it.
It was put on the event page.
No, it's not on the event page. No.
That is the rules of the debate. If you aren't happy with this, then I'm very sorry, but come
No,
to me at the
I
end. So I'd like to ask James Kelly to continue now. Thank you.
Thank you. The reality is that no matter how much Tony shouts or how earnestly he speaks, independent Scotland will not deliver a socialist Scotland.
You ever heard anything like it in your life?
The main partner on the yes side is the SNP. As I pointed out earlier, the SNP would immediately take £400 million out of the budget in terms of corporation tax cut. That's not really dollar socialism, is it? And if you take the example of the currency union, even George Kerrigan, who is an SNP commentator, he admits that without a currency union, interest rates in Scotland would immediately go up by 1.5%. That hits people in communities throughout Scotland. Michelle also mentioned tax. The cost of a separate Scottish tax system, just setting the system up, is £628 million. So we would do millions of pounds down, running into the building.
That's such rubbish, don't you like?
And the currency debate highlights that problem, it highlights the difficulties in it.
Okay, thanks James and Martin.
Thanks. I actually agree with the colleague. I think it's all voted for independence. Scotland voted for independence. We should have a own currency, because I fail to see, as a fairly simple person in the middle here, how on earth we can have all the controls we expect to have as an independent country if we're handing the levers of finance across to either Brussels or down to Westminster. It just doesn't make sense to me as a person. If you're giving them control of the levers of finance, how on earth can we do all the things we really hope to do as a fully independent country? Just again, going back to the monetary side, I'm not going to play the figures game. I have no idea if we're going to be better off or worse off. Even here. But I will say, if we do have more money coming in, that's going to be fantastic. However, I go back to I have my own business, I have to set a budget for that business, I have to work within that budget. Whatever the figure is, and if it's higher, fantastic. We're still going to have to work within the budget. If we want to set up an oil fund like Norway does, and a huge amounts of money for our kids to spend, fantastic, but that's going to take a huge chunk of money. If we want to get rid of X, Y, and Z benefits, fantastic, but that's going to take a huge chunk of money. We can't do everything, we can't please everyone, regardless of what size that for us.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Another question?
Hello, Stephen Watson, Mathematics, University of Glasgow. I've got a question for James Kelly, and it kind of reminds me of a punchline of Alex Salmond with the Labour Party in Scotland, not the Labour Party more generally. They're often caught saying one thing in public and then another thing in public. Now, this evening, less than 10 minutes, you specifically said we 3.3 billion down on something, some relative term, and then a few minutes later, 7.7 billion down. So I think I'd like to sort of call for account those who throw out figures, that the figures should be founded in fact. So they're also thing in the shell, so I want to sort of count the two of you. So Standard & Poor, the rating agency, I guess we could take as an independent observer, recently published a document, and in that document they compared the GDP per capita of Scotland to other nations. And they concluded that the GDP of Scotland per capita was greater than that of Germany for this fiscal year. So my question for you is, one, where do you pull your figures from? Please cite sources that we can actually look at and verify. I would love to verify some of the things you're claiming, but I'm giving you one. I'm telling you Standard & Poor came to that conclusion. And Michelle, I'd like you to counter whatever James says and pull out, I think, the plethora of facts that Business for Scotland have certified in their studies over the past year, and let's the audience contrast and compare.
Okay, thanks. We just have James for the notes I take this, and then the response just from Michelle, just so we can get to more questions. Thanks.
When I used the 3.3 billion figure, I said at least 3.3 billion.
Yeah, he's changing. He's changing.
Source for that figure is CPPR, the Centre for Public Policy in the Regions. When I used the 7.7 billion figure, that is actually from official government statistics, the JAIR statistics. That's not dangerous.
It's just as reliable as the
but that means that the Scottish Government balance sheet and independent Scotland would start at a deficit, and that is a major challenge for dealing some of the issues around the country. In terms of the GDP, what I would say to you is, if you're moving from a market of 63 million to a market of 5 million, that's going to put your GDP figures under pressure. We export 45 billion to England and Wales, twice as much as we manufacture in Scotland alone, and that also puts the domestic product figure under pressure.
Yeah, we just have one response over here from Michelle, otherwise we'll never get through the questions.
Okay, so numbers, lies, and damn statistics, and so on. So for those of you that aren't aware, GERS, Government Expenditure Revenue Scotland, has been gathered by the civil service over the past 32 years. We do have some data going back further than that actually also demonstrates that Scotland has raised more money than it's got back via the Barnett formula, but we don't use that because it's not been independently verified. So GERS, sometimes the No campaign is extremely disingenuous by saying, but you see, that includes the geographic share of oil and gas. Now, I run a property management company. Its core function is managing properties. If we took the turnover from that out of my bottom line figures, it would have a significant impact. It's a core function of my business. So why on earth would we take out oil and gas, which is a significant industry for Scotland, out of the GERS figures? Frankly, it doesn't make sense and it's disingenuous. Point number two, 9.9, 9.3. Scotland has 8.4% UK population. It raises 9.9% and gets back 9.3. In terms of deficit, yes, it is correct that Scotland does have a deficit, but it is actually at 5% of GDP as compared to 7.9% of UK. Again, these are independently verifiable facts. Just one other wee point of information. Business for Scotland calculated that the interest we've been paying on the debt within the UK, monies borrowed in the open markets has cost Scotland 64.1 billion over the past 32 years. Money that we didn't even need to borrow because our balance sheet didn't need it to be done. So that's, again, these are independently verifiable. In actual fact, the Cuthberts, who are very well known economists, came out with a much higher figure. We went for the conservative one to be on the safe side. It is a fact. Scotland is a wealthy nation. The Standard & Poor's AAA rating compared the size of our economy with New Zealand. Let no one say to you that we are too poor. It's frankly rubbish.
And then one from you as well.
Sure, I want to come back on what Michelle was saying there, because the Centre for Public Policy in the Regions, if you want the citation, and it's based here at the University of Glasgow, says that when she's talking about North Sea oil revenues, it says, and I quote directly, the Scottish Government would need to rely on most or all of the tax revenues from the North Sea simply to attain the current implicit level of annual fiscal deficit. This would mean that no such revenues would be available to build on the Scotland Oil Fund, or at least not without tax increases or budget cuts. Scotland would need to use all such funds just to compensate for the loss in higher spend per head on public services as a result of leaving the UK. And the IFS, which again is independent if you want citation, it says in its recent report, and I quote directly, an independent Scotland would require a significant cut in spending or increases in taxes over and above that already announced by the UK government in order to put their long-term public finances onto a sustainable footing. The scale of this fiscal tightening is likely to be greater than that required for the UK as a whole. It runs several scenarios. The most optimistic of which says there would either have to be an 8% cut in services, like schools, like hospitals, or a 9% increase in the basic rate of income tax. That's the numbers, that's the citations, that's the exact wording.
Thanks for that quick response.
Made the assumption that an independent Scotland would follow exactly the same economic policy as the rest of the UK, and then extrapolated them 50 years hence. Let's face it, George Osborne can't even extrapolate forward 2 years and get it right. And do we believe this? No. You know, and also the IFS, independent, I don't think so.
No, it's the UK government.
Fees and wages. And just think about vested interests, if you would.
Hi, I'm a social worker in the Children and Families Department, and this is more question for the Royal County. Every day I'm going out to people's houses and I'm seeing children sleeping, not even in bed, totally poverty stricken. And as a local authority, we're being asked to look at charities to help support with that. So if you mentioned that the UK is one of the wealthiest countries, so can I ask why that's happening? If we are so rich, why are our children not being able to be provided with the needs that they have?
Who would like to take this?
Well, I think one of the best ways, and I'm sure through your work that you'll have seen this as well, the best ways to increase the ability for people to have their children, to give them opportunities, is to make sure that they have good jobs themselves, and that requires growth, it requires jobs in the economy, and yes, times. But our economy is now growing faster than any other in the OECD, any other in Western Europe. Unemployment is down to 6.4%. Our recent Wilson Brown Foundation gave us the last figures to show that the numbers of people in child poverty in Scotland was at its lowest level for 10 years. Now, absolutely, I know that you're working with the poorest in our society. We want to help the poorest in our society in the best way is to get
you want to get looked at?
money, wages, and stability coming into households.
Yeah. We just have one response in from the yes tonight, and then we'll try to get more questions, because otherwise we won't get. We've got less than half an hour left.
You know, I listened to Ruth talking about child poverty being lower than any time in the last 10 years. Does she not understand that it was her Thatcher government that took it higher than any time in Britain's history. All that happened with child poverty under 13 years, because remember what James asking you to do. Apparently we're not going to build a socialist Scotland. But if we stay with the UK, we'll have socialism, I guess, eh? Aye, and Santa Claus is coming as well. 13 years they had to solve the chronic social inequality. What did they do? They accelerated the gap between the rich and the poor. That's what 13 years of New Labour in power did. You want to talk about money? Let's talk about the saving. The £2.5 billion 2 weeks ago, the MOD announced they're going to buy 14 new fighter jets. £2.5 billion of your money. On the same day it was announced that 51% of the Wains in Springburn are living in poverty. Well, I'll tell you what, when it comes to priorities, I would rather spend £2.5 billion in tackling poverty than buying new super duper fighter jets.
And if you say we're trying to tackle poverty, why do you challenge and attack a profession that tries to help poverty? What does Mr. Gove's idea of social justice mean? It's social injustice. He has no idea about what he's saying.
Who is that directed to?
Ruth.
Wasn't it, you told me?
Why are you talking about Mr. Gove? He's in charge of schools down south rather than social work up here. But I mean, my brother-in-law is a child crisis social worker. My mother-in-law is a child crisis social worker. I do a lot of work through the work that I do in the office along the opposite Kelvin Road with people who are involved in the social work here in Glasgow. I've never attacked social workers. I think they do a fantastic job and we need to support them. And I think the issues about supporting families across Scotland are complex issues. And actually, I don't think they're issues necessarily that have much to do with independence, devolution, Devomax, Indy Light, United Kingdom or whatever.